Hi, welcome to Profit Over Turnover. I'm Carmel Siri, your host and owner of Profit Flow, your cash flow strategic partner. So this week, I want to talk to you about breaking even, what it means, how you can work it out in your business, and why it's really good to know this so that you always have enough cash for all of your expenses and your growth strategies. So a break-even point is the point where your total revenue equals your total costs. So again, if you look at breaking down those costs into variable costs, which can also be called cost of sales, and they vary with the number of products. If you're selling products, the cost of sales will vary with the number of products that you sell, or if you and then fixed costs are your overheads or your expenses. Now, not every business, as discussed, will have cost of sales or variable costs, but every business should know how many hours they need to work, how many units they need to sell in order to break even. So as I say, break even point is where all of your sales equals all of your costs, and that includes your variable costs and your fixed costs. Now, and it's where you're not making any profit and you're not making any loss. So why do you want to know that? You want to know that because it is the minimum that units that you need to sell. It is the minimum hours you need to work in order to break even, to cover your costs and not to have any debt going forward. And it's a gauge to know that if you don't work those hours or you work more hours or less hours, that you will have an overflow, which will as a profit, or you will be short. So therefore, you have more to make up in the short term. So as always, let's just do a quick example because when we're talking about numbers, it's always easier to work through them by way of an example. So here we have our break even. So again, we have fixed costs over our gross profit. Now we must work out what the unit is. So this is not the group sales for the month and the group costs for the month. It is per unit. So for example, if we move on down here, you have your selling price. Now that could be the amount you charge for an hour doing content work. It could be or bookkeeping work, or it could be the price you charge for your unit. I'm choosing €40 here. In your case, it could be 140, it could be 240, whatever it is, but it's what you do for one. So one unit, one day, 1 hour, 1 minute, whatever it is you charge by, it is one of them. So let's talk about unit product for the moment. So you're charging €40 per that one product. So the materials that go into that cost you 15. So that's in the case of a product, it could be the materials to wrap, it could be the packaging, it can be the actual materials that go into making that product. It's the cost of sales, it's the variable costs, and it costs you €15 to make that product. So your gross profit is €25 here. Now I have written down here contribution and I have contribution. In management accounting terms, it's contribution. So how much, which is 25, do you have to contribute to paying towards your fixed costs? And I only bringing this in just in case your accountant or someone you know talks about it. So you are aware what it's a contribution per unit towards fixed costs. But from our examples that we've done in the other episodes, it is the same as your gross profit per unit. That's really important. So then we move on down and let's just say per unit or per 1 month costs in your business for the rent, for your social media, for your Facebook ads, for all of those things, it costs you 7,500. That could be 750. It could be, 75,000 a month. You just need to know how much it costs to run your business. So you would add in, if there was electricity, you would add that in. You would add in if it costs you travel to your customers, you would add all of these in, all of these overheads. How much per month does it cost to run your business? So in my example here, I'm using 7,500. So we've just worked out that the gross profit and the contribution towards our um, fixed cost is €25. So then we come down here. We have worked out our contribution, our gross profit per unit is €25. We have our fixed cost at 7,500, and that is for the month. We are then going to divide that 7,500 for our costs, divide that by our contribution, our gross profit, 25, and we're getting 300. So we're getting 300 units. So if we are selling our product for 40 euros, we've covered our variable costs because we're bringing those in per unit at 15 euros. It costs us to produce or make that product at 15. So our gross profit, or in this case, we call it a contribution, is 25 euros. And then we have worked out that our monthly overheads, our monthly expenses are 7,500. That's for our rent, all of our advertising, all of our different costs added up. And we then take that 750 because this is what we have to pay out every month on our overheads, and we have our gross profit here. So we work out that we have to make 300 units, or if this is hours, so maybe you don't have the 15 euros, you would divide the 7,500, you would divide it by the 40 only, and then you would get a smaller number. In my example here, we're at 300 units or hours. So you would then say, this is a great gauge for you then to be able to work out that you need to have capacity for 300. Maybe you need to get the orders in. It gives you a number to focus on so that you know that your costs are being covered. If this is per hours, we obviously don't have 300 hours in a month to work. And you might have 10 people that are dividing that. So they might then have 300 hours divided by the 10. So each person needs to be working 30 hours. So you need to have enough work for 10 people or whatever number it is to cover the 300 hours that you need. And it's a really good way of making sure that all of your costs are covered on a monthly basis. And then when you make 301 euros, that €1 bar your variable cost. So that 25 euro gross margin is directly coming into your pocket. So that's actually directly coming in as profit. And it's a great way to understand the numbers again in your business. It's just a different way of looking at it. So remember that we're breaking it out, our variable and our fixed costs. A lot of management accounting and a lot of analysis of your numbers are breaking down and categorizing each cost, because then you're able to ask specific questions based on the costs that you are collecting. So I hope you found that useful, and I would love to hear your comments in the comment section. Any questions you might have or any thoughts you would have. I would love you just to subscribe, and if you can share this link with somebody in business that you think will benefit from this, I'll be very grateful. So any topics that you would like me to cover, please put in the comments as well, and we will put them into the schedule. So until the next time, have a great week and talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.